This is the procedure, the operations of law that apply to the United States. And what United States do you think I'm talking about? Well, you'll see later on in this video. When the IRS comes trying to claim you owe an obligation, a debt to them. When you look under 26 U.S. Code, section 7701, under the definitions, you find the following. When used in this title, in this code, where not otherwise distinctly expressed, or manifestly incompatible with the intent thereof. So what this is saying is, when you look at these words, these are the definitions of the words, unless a contrary intention appears. Unless these words have been redefined in that particular section, then these definitions will apply. So the word person, the term person shall be construed to mean and include an individual. And we know that an individual can break down in two ways, either to the artificial entity, the corporate entity, or to the man or the woman. So the term person shall mean individual, a trust, estate, partnership, association, company, or corporation. And taxpayer. The term taxpayer means any person subject to an internal revenue tax. And in this section, in definitions, the word trade or business. The term trade or business includes. Now notice that word. When you use the word includes, it closes off the definition. If they used the word including, it would have left the definition open. But since they put the word includes here, whatever they are about to describe is the only thing that it means. So the term trade or business includes the performance of the functions of a public office. If they claim you are involved in trade or business, then they are declaring that you are performing the functions of a public office. 28 U.S. Code, Section 3001, applicability of the chapter. So in general, except as provided for in subsection B, the chapter provides the exclusive civil procedure for the United States to recover a judgment on a debt. So if the IRS claims that you owe them a debt and they want to recover the debt, this is the section of law, 28 U.S. Code, that they use to apply against you. And the section clearly states that this chapter provides the exclusive civil procedures for the United States to recover a judgment on a debt. Now, what United States are they talking about? It will become clear in a few minutes. The above code is what they used on you to start their civil procedure. To take you to court, they are claiming that you owe a debt. What we are seeing is that Section 28 of the U.S. Code, 3001, is what the United States of America uses for its civil procedure in order to start to recover on a judgment for a debt. When we jump into U.S. Code 28, Section 3002, definitions, it's going to define for us what a debt means and what United States means in this context. So they come after you, and it's a lawyer who comes to serve you and says that you owe a debt to the IRS. Used in this chapter, counsel for the United States means a United States attorney, an assistant United States attorney designated to act on behalf of the United States attorney. B. Any private attorney authorized by contract made in accordance with Section 3718 of Title 31 to conduct litigation for collection of debts on behalf of the United States. So they're going to send an attorney after you to collect for the debt on behalf of the United States for that taxation that was not paid. They sent their lawyers after you claiming that you owe a debt because you have not filed your income tax form and they want to figure out how much debt you owe them. Or they sent a lawyer after you because they are going to open up a court case against you within their court and claim you owe them amount. You owe them a debt. Now, in this section, court means any court created by Congress of the United States, excluding the United States Tax Court. And debt. Debt means an amount that is owing to the United States. Okay, so we're going to clear up what debt means. On account of a direct loan or loan insured or guaranteed by the United States. B. An amount that is owing to the United States on account of tax. So a debt means an amount that is owing to the United States for taxes. That's what it says in this definition section. Now, we found out what a debt means. Now, what does the United States mean? When you look in section 15, the United States means a federal corporation. B, an agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States, of the federal corporation, that body corporate, or an instrumentality of the United States, which simply means an agency or an office. So the one who owes a debt for tax owes that debt for tax to a corporate body, a federal corporation, that is called the United States. And if we go back up, we see that if you are titled or designated that you are in trade or business, then you are performing the functions of a public office. You are an officer of this federal corporation. They have classified you as an officer of the United States body corporate. This is the operation of law, the mechanisms of law that are being drawn out of the code to try and force you to pay a taxation, a contribution to the economic, social, and cultural development of the United States. You clearly see that a debt means a tax liability to the United States, and the United States, under the tax code, is nothing more than a body corporate, a federal corporation. And they're declaring that you're a public officer to this corporation, and as such, you owe a duty to perform under this enactment. Now, the last section I want to look at is 26 U.S. Code 6671, Rules for Application of Assessable Penalties. So when you haven't filed or the like, they try to assess penalties against you. Now watch what this brings forth. Penalties assessed as a tax. The penalties and liabilities provided by this subchapter shall be paid upon notice and demand by the Secretary, and shall be assessed and collected in the same manner as taxes, except as otherwise provided. Any reference in this title to tax imposed by this title shall be deemed also to refer to the penalties and liabilities provided by this subchapter. So when they add penalties, they change the designation and say, oh, it's just a tax. You owe more taxes now. But what's interesting is when you look at person defined, when they're talking about adding the penalties, it says the term person, as used in this subchapter, includes an officer or employee of a corporation. Yes, we understand that. You are declaring that I am a public officer of the corporate body, United States of America, or a member or employee of a partnership who, as such officer, employee, or member, is under a duty to perform the act in respect of which the violation occurs. So here you go, the lawyers and their wonderful words and their wonderful legalese to try and confuse the average individual. The only one who owes a duty to perform this act, the U.S. Code, is the one who is incorporated into the United States, the one who's operating as a public officer in a public office, partaking in trade and business under this code that the IRS uses to try and force a contribution. The United States means a federal corporation. It means a corporate body. And they are trying to declare that you are part of this corporate body by being incorporated and operating under the role of a public office. You are an officer of the United States. This is against your fundamental rights and freedoms as expressed in the Constitution Act. Article 16 of the International Covenant says you have the right to take recognition as a class of persons before the law, not an obligation. Here, through their codes, they are trying to force you to take recognition as that class of person in order to produce a mechanism to get a judgment against you saying that you owe them a debt under taxation. I'm not going to restate all the principles, constitutional principles, and international principles that free you from this mechanism or operation of law. The intent of this video was to back up the first video that I did concerning your common law rights in courts, and that I used taxation as an example. And here you clearly see what's transpiring. They are declaring that you are incorporated in the federal corporation and you owe them an obligation as such to the code. You owe them a debt, a tax debt, and they are seeking to collect that against you now. But your fundamental rights and freedoms frees you from all this garbage.